Where?
We're live, and it is very much Matt's fault.
Very much.
That we're live.
Well, amongst other things.
Yeah.
But mostly that we're live.
Well, it's not his fault that we're not dead. So
Liam's in the chat, which is okay. Sorry, I just heard myself talk on the YouTube embed, and it really freaked me out.
Thank you for reminding me to pause that.
Yep.
Oh, I just closed the window once I got the chat open.
Oh, yeah. I guess.
Chat and then close it.
Oh, you can do pop out? I never knew this.
Yeah,
you can do pop out,
my quality of life has just been raised.
And you get a little ninja there on the screen. It says, "Nothing to see here. We popped out."
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Excellent.
It's very satisfying.
Okay. So we do have a sponsor this week. I'm going to prepare the social. Oh, just link to the YouTube video. Okay. All right, I will start recording in just a moment here, right after I social us. All right, we are socialed. Post is stickied. Close Slack. Okay, I'm going to do the pre-roll. This week's Android Please podcast is brought to you by Linode. Check them out at linode.com/Android Please to get a free $20 server credit to get your server up and running today.
Welcome to the Android Please podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Thursday, October 13th, 2016. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm David Ruddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
And I'm Cody Toombs.
All right, so we got lots of kind of follow-up news to go from our big show last week regarding the October 4th announcements. The first one is going to start off with Android 7.1 developer preview. A lot of people upset after the announcement that the new Pixel phones were going to be shipping with 7.1, but the Nexus phones would not have them. And it looks like, maybe we blew that a little bit out of proportion. And by we, I mean everybody but me, because I totally didn't. But yeah, so the developer preview is going to start later this month. Ironically enough, the Pixel phone is releasing later this month, so it's all good. Right?
Well, I don't know about all good. I mean, you're still going to have to wait, another month and a half to actually get the software on your Nexus phone in a traditional manner. I mean, if you want to join the beta and run that, go right ahead. I don't know that most regular people should.
I'm still of the position on this that this first cycle is just an adjusting period, and that after 7.1 is official on the Nexus devices, then the Pixels and the supported Nexuses will get 7.2 or whatever it's called roughly at the same time, because 7.1 has to be ready for the Pixels, and 7.1 doesn't have to be ready for the Nexuses right now. They're not getting Assistant anyway. So why do you actually really care about 7.1?
Yeah,
I mean, you can be pissed off about not getting Assistant, but being pissed off about not getting 7.1, I mean, it's not like 7.1 is a groundbreaking operating system.
The exclusive features are the big sticking point for people. I think the update thing is just like, it's the principle.
I guess
So-
I just can't be bothered to give a damn. I mean, like I understand that you really want the newest version of the operating system, but there's so few changes, and this is literally the first time Google has done this model. So it seems really early to get out the pitchforks.
You know what it does kind of remind me a little bit of is when they released the original Droid on Verizon with 2.0 Eclair, and everybody was like, look, the new Google phone, it's got the latest and the best. And then a month and a half later, they're like, here is the Nexus 1. It runs Android 2.1.
Yeah, but there were so few changes between 2.0 and 2.1.
I mean, there were more changes than 7.0 to 7.1.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't actually recall what the differences were.
Guys, I think you're missing out on the
They
key
were still
point.
really small.
I think you're missing out on the key point that one of the features of Android 7.1 is circular app icon support. So you can now have
That's
have
huge.
round app icons, which was totally different from before when you could have round app.
Google
icons.
is breaking its promise to give me new features that really upset me in a timely manner.
I'm glad that they're doing something like this. For years they've been doing the whole like, let's roll out the new version to every Nexus owner right away, and that's great for developers. It's great for the enthusiasts and anyone who's in a rush to get it. But seriously, you can read in the comments constantly somebody saying, "Oh, I got a Nexus phone for my grandmother or for my name whatever non-technical person," and every time it's like, they shouldn't be rolling this out to everyone right away. That's dumb. They should blah blah blah. And they're doing it. They created the beta program. You can now, if you care at all, you go and sign up a device. Like, it takes 2 minutes.
Yep.
Grandma can wait for the stable one to roll out.
Or you can enroll grandma
This
in the
is-
beta. Maybe grandma's adventurous. Who knows?
Hey, she might be.
Yes.
And I know this might sound weird, but I may be the only one who's actually more interested in the 7.1 features than the exclusive Pixel features. I want my app shortcuts, damn it.
Yeah, I agree. The app shortcuts look pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see how they really how those get implemented across the variety of Google apps. I mean, I'm sure third-party developers will go nuts with this because it's going to, everybody's going to look at it and say enhance discoverability of features, and they'll want to do that.
Yeah. And the beauty too is it's so easy to implement. Like, that's your it takes minutes to put that into most apps, so developers will jump on board just because it takes nothing.
I think you're still going to have the kind of similar issue where, people discoverability of app shortcuts in and of themselves is going to be very poor. I'm sure if Liam was here, he would tell us about. There he is in the chat room. I'm one of the people who is complaining about discoverability.
So is there any sort of visual indication that an app icon has shortcuts before
I don't
you
believe
touch it?
so.
Because that's going to be pretty annoying. Like, you're just going to start swiping. Does that have it? Does that have it? Does that have it? Oh, that one does. This one doesn't. That one doesn't.
Okay, so right now the Pixel launcher, from what we've seen in the videos, it's a long press to make the app shortcuts show up, and there's no visual indicator.
Wait, is it a long press or a swipe?
Long press, I thought.
How do you
move icons?
So how do you move icons around? Do you just keep long pressing and then drag? Or
no? Yes, yes, you do. I recall this quite specifically.
Okay.
So yeah,
I wouldn't say it was terribly intuitive, but that is how it works.
However,
allegedly.
So it is worth pointing out that third-party launchers can totally be some sort of visual indicator if they wanted to. There's no reason.
Yeah, Action Launcher does that with their sort of like, quick and dirty implementation of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to, I would say that maybe Google just hopes that people will accidentally discover that it's there. I want to get rid of this icon. Wait, what's happening?
I feel like it's very weird that there's no visual indicator and it's tied to such a common gesture like that. Like people are going to run into it and they're going to be confused about what's happening because it doesn't happen on every app.
Yeah, definitely. I can see this being something that until it can take a long time before people get into this behavior, and even then, I will see if it actually sticks.
I mean, or Google could like put some sort of like system level default action in, so like every icon does something. Like it could just be uninstall if and then like whatever else the developer wants to put in there or something. I don't know.
Or just open. Uninstall and
yeah,
open.
instead of tapping, you can just long press and then tap it. Yeah.
All right, so that's Android 7.1. Of course, we talked a few weeks back about the fact that Android Wear 2.0, despite being announced many moons ago, has been pushed out until 2017. Now we're hearing that those rumored smartwatches that we featured a story or two about might be coming around the same time, right, guys?
Yeah, apparently. I mean, I think that's what we have speculated about since the delay was announced, that maybe when they actually do finish it, they'll release the watches. And now that is the rumor.
I mean, it makes sense. They're working on them. We know that it's comforting to know, I guess. I mean, I don't actually personally care very much, but that they're still making both of them, because we had some fears that maybe one of them was dropped because we hadn't seen it recently. So I guess that's good that they're working on both of them. If these are branded Pixel, this feels much more stabby in the backy than the Pixel phones. Like you're looking at a nascent market here. And Google's like, hey, you know how we're the most visible brand around Android Wear? Guess what? We're making watches now. You guys can make watches too. It's cool. You can have distinguishing features and brand identities. We're just going to be over here making watches.
I feel like if Google really did like go for broke like that, or like we're just going to make watches that are obviously better than yours, then anyone else that wanted to make a smartwatch would just be like, hey, maybe we should use Tizen instead.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how this plays out. It's still good to know that they plan to make them. Even if I don't believe in smartwatches very much, I'm curious to see if Google is going to do some things that other people haven't yet.
All right, one little bit of news from the Google App Suite for manufacturers. Apparently, Hangouts has been demoted down to optional. So there are certain apps that Google requires you to have on your phone in order to have full Android compatibility and get access to the Play Store and all that good stuff. Hangouts was a part of that, and so far it's been demoted to optional. I don't know.
I was deeply surprised how many people went full Darth Vader no meme with this whole news. It's not that important. You can still use Hangouts. It's still going to be there.
Hey, just download
Google's still going to develop it. Like Google's not going to stop developing Hangouts.
I think here's the concern though, is that basically the only way any of us have Hangouts chat associates is that their phones came with Hangouts, so it was pretty easy to like get them using it. If their phones don't have Hangouts, like a lot of people aren't going to use it that might use it right now.
I feel like Hangout, for me at least, is mostly people who used Google Talk and are still using a Google Chat platform today. That's it for me. And, honestly, Hangouts is still good for group chat. It's still good for this, obviously. This is powered by Hangouts, what we're doing right now. Hangouts has its uses. I am not like a full-on Hangouts hater. I just hate Hangouts as a one-to-one chat client, where I find it much more obnoxious to use. But for stuff like this, I can see why the whole pivot to the business, use case. I think that makes a lot of sense for Hangouts, and I think they would want to continue to develop it as a legitimate competitor to Skype and similar applications.
Yeah, I don't really see any reason for Hangouts to go away. I don't get why everyone's deciding it's dead. This is certainly a bigger kill. This is like a bigger stab to it than, let's say, Google Plus being de-integrated from stuff. This actually is going to reduce Hangouts usage. But if you're using it already, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's still there.
Yeah, I don't see it going away for years and years.
I mean, I hope that they at least decide to make Allo a default app. Like, if they're gonna push Allo, like, just do it, and then maybe people will use it
and make it good. Make it
I
better.
guess. I feel like, I wonder if their whole thing was, all right, we're going to release Duo, and then we're going to release Allo, and whoever has the best launch momentum, you get to be the new special app. And and I feel like Duo won because Duo fills an actual feature gap on Android. I mean, even though I don't use it, I can see why it would be the more popular application. So I'm wondering where the app rankings are right now. I'm going to check that while we move on. But
really quick, I do want to raise a weird little question in my head. Project Fi very specifically uses Hangouts for a lot of stuff. It's not like non-Nexus / Pixel phones are Fi appropriate, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But so is Google going to take Hangouts out of their own devices?
I wouldn't count on that anytime soon.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
okay, breaking news. Allo is now officially below Duo in the top charts. Allo's 164, Duo's 140.
Wow.
And Duo has not even been preloaded onto any devices yet. So this is pre the change. So Duo is outperforming Allo organically.
Yeah.
So what other apps are optional in the apps package?
There are a bunch. Google Plus, I believe, is optional now.
Google Earth?
There's Google Earth. I don't even know if Google Earth's optional. I think Google Earth is just off doing its own thing.
Well, I don't know. This S7 Edge that I just set up today had it on there.
Doc sheets, slides, I believe those are all optional. Drive is required.
And those those are all showing up on like this. Those are all showing up on like 6Ps now, right? Like if you have a Nexus 6P, that's on there by default, or do you have to install it?
I honestly don't know. Google Keep would be another one that I believe is optional.
I don't know. I thought Keep might have been required.
Okay, well, I don't have a recently factory reset phone, so
yeah, it's tough to be sure.
Yeah.
And as far as Google's own phones, they do include software that's optional anyway. They're kind of like any OEM. They've got the freedom to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's move on to Pixel news. So apparently somebody on Reddit got their hands on a Pixel XL, confirmed some stuff, maybe got themselves in trouble. Don't really know.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
So reboot
I would
button
bet
is
this
there.
was a situation where they were like posting this and somebody's like, hey, is that you on Reddit talking about that phone you're using right now? No.
Better delete that thread right now for just coincidentally. It was deleted after you said that. I don't know anything about it. But yeah, it was probably live for, I don't know, an hour or two. And people were very, very interested. And the person, before they deleted the thread, posted a couple of tidbits like, there's a reboot button now, which is great. Also, he posted some video samples of the electronic image stabilization being pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see how the EIS does in more extreme conditions. Yeah. I mean, Google's really talking it up, and they're talking up the camera in general, so there's going to be a lot of hype to live up to.
Yeah, the EIS on the 6P is very mediocre. So hopefully,
this is EIS 2.0, Ryan. It's twice as good.
I mean, 2 times nothing is still nothing. So I don't know.
All right, so some news just specific to the Verizon edition of the Pixel, and edition is probably not the right thing, because I think the more that we're finding out is that the only difference between the Verizon Pixel and the the Google Store Pixel is going to be the bootloader unlockability. So system updates apparently are going to be undelayed, direct from, well, I don't know if it's going to be direct from Google, but in the same time frame that Google's releasing them.
I mean, that's the weird part here is we don't know exactly what the situation is going to be, because Verizon, I mean, Google said previously Verizon would be handling the updates, like the system updates, and Google would push security updates directly. But now Verizon said, no, we'll have the updates on the Verizon model at the same time as the unlocked one. So I'm not certain what Verizon's role in this even is. Like, are they, is their sole purpose here to just push the updates from their servers, just so, I don't know, so that they can control, like, I don't know, like the bandwidth usage or like how fast it's rolled out or something? Or like, are they literally doing nothing?
Yeah, I'm very curious as well, but I'm gonna guess we will get no technical insight on this
Yeah,
ever.
probably. All we will be able to say is, have the Verizon updates showed up at the same time as the unlocked ones, yes or no? And I guess we'll find out. I mean, Google confirmed this. Like, after Verizon said this is how it's happening, Google's like, yes, this is the case. So
the proof is
right now
it's probably worth
the language
remembering
has
though
been
that the Moto X on Verizon was getting updates at the same time.
The Moto X, I think the last 2 years of the Moto X, I think they had like stupid fast updates.
Now, to be fair, Verizon is actually not at all the slowest carrier for OS updates.
That's AT&T, I think. Probably.
Yeah, AT&T is always the slowest, and then T-Mobile can be very slow too. Verizon and T-Mobile probably switch it up between second and third place.
I think
Sprint
T-Mobile
is almost
ends up,
always first.
T-Mobile ends up very slow on devices that don't sell well.
Yeah, and Sprint is wicked fast.
Yeah.
They are almost always the first to improve.
It's because they kind of don't care. Like, does that update physically? Does it physically boot on the phone? Is it still a phone after you install the software? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Sprint's concern is like, listen, we're gonna go ahead and cut QA costs here. So,
Sprint. Go ahead.
Isn't the carrier involvement always revolving around, how it plays with their network? Isn't that what they always claim? Like, oh, we have to make sure it plays nice with our network.
And their built-in services
and their apps.
So
because
Verizon will
Verizon
also make it a service issue.
Verizon has to make sure that VZ Navigator works perfectly on every phone, because everybody uses it, as we all know.
Okay, so that's, actually, this brings me to my point in that there were only 3 preloaded Verizon apps on the Pixel, which are Go90, VZ Messages, and My Verizon, right? Yeah. So those are the 3. None of those are, really complicated apps. One's a video streamer. One's basically, probably a fancy web portal account app. And one is a messaging app that, is probably all, it's probably not too difficult to get up and running on any device.
So somebody said they're all apps that we don't use, and in the chat, and I'm just gonna politely disagree. I feel like My Verizon app is probably used by most people who have.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Carrier account apps, totally legit.
Apps.
Yeah,
I feel like if there's one excuse for bloatware, it's carrier apps.
Yeah, carrier account apps, cool.
Well, and their Messenger app actually has a purpose to it, not just a random fill-in app.
Yeah. So if I were to play inside baseball on this, my guess is that the way this is working is Google and Verizon probably went through some very intensive negotiations about what would be preloaded. And these are Google's probably like, you get 3 apps, pick them. And then Google's leverage in this case is, hey, listen, we're going to put on a live support screen control app on the phone, and you can direct people to that before they go to a Verizon store or whatever, because this is what the carriers really care about. After they sell you the phone, their number one goal is to avoid you incurring any additional cost to them at any cost. And so when Google's like, we're going to do this whole support thing, Verizon's like, great, this is very, very good for us. And so I bet that was Google's biggest piece of leverage. And so I bet that's how we ended up with a phone that has uninstallable bloatware, very few pieces of said bloatware, one of which is an outright attempt to get you to consume monetized Verizon content, which is Go90. One of which is to try to lock you into a messaging ecosystem, which is VZ messages, and one of which is actually a tool. And the two that you don't want, like, those are whatever. Most people probably won't ever use them. So I think Google probably played their cards really well here. And the lock bootloader thing, I think, again, comes back to Verizon not wanting support tickets. A locked bootloader means nobody can seriously break their phone in ways that an unlocked bootloader allows them to. So I think that Google probably stood up to Verizon way more than they maybe did in the past here. So I think it's a good trade-off for the most part, unless you really want an unlocked bootloader. And so, because they only have those 3 apps, theoretically, the only thing Verizon cares about is those 3 apps working, which probably are pretty easy apps to get working. And I would bet Google is working with them to make sure that ahead of time everything's going to go smoothly. So, if Google themselves are saying that, hey, everything's going to be simultaneous, there's not going to be anything to worry about, for now, I am inclined to believe them. I'm not of the wait and see mentality. I'm of the, okay, I would lean toward them being truthful.
So, just having read some of the language with a few comments they've made, the one thing I'm starting to wonder is if Verizon might now be in on the Google shares all of the security updates with their other partners in advance. I'm kind of thinking that they might just be sharing that with Verizon now up front. That way Verizon gets well enough advance notice to test, play with everything, and they're trying out stuff so far in advance of it being shipped that I bet Verizon still has the ability to pull the handbrake and say, nope, we're not letting this one through, but the odds of that ever coming up are so unlikely. And there's probably part of the agreement might even be that if Verizon hasn't made a decision by such and such date, the updates go out whether. Yeah. So I think that's probably a direction that they might have gone. No inside knowledge, but it fits the language.
I would love to be the fly on that wall to see how this is all transpired, but sadly, I'm guessing we'll never really know.
Oh, someday someone will be like the tell-all book for Google secrets. It'll be awesome.
Oh, I'm going to apologize, guys, because I put the next story on here, but I'm not sure that this fits the show's concept. So what do you guys think?
Oh, that one? No, we don't need that. I'll go ahead. I'm going to, hold on. Okay, that makes it easy for me to determine where in edits I need to.
Yes, the giant waveform right there at 1/3 of the way through the show. All right, so moving on to the rumor roundup, we had a couple leaks this week. We're gonna start off with the Huawei Mate 9, which got leaked through EV Leaks with a standard and curved screen version. Which you know what? I'm gonna pull this up on the screen share for those watching at home.
Oh, and they are so worthy
see the picture
of this.
Yes,
because it is truly outstanding what Huawei has accomplished here.
Yeah.
I feel like there's going to be a commercial. What if we had the audacity to create a new Galaxy Note 7?
that doesn't explode.
Yeah, I don't know. This might not be the best.
Or maybe
time.
it does explode. I mean, that's a surprise.
This might not be the best time to be making a phone that looks like the Note
Okay,
7.
and so disclosure up front. So there, if you're listening to the audio show, we have 2 rows of device images. On the top are flat screen devices. On the bottom are curved edge screen devices, just like the S7 Edge or the Note 7 or the S6 Edge, etc. The ones on the bottom, if you did not know there was a Huawei logo embossed above the edge of the display on the top, you would actually think those were Samsung phones. And I am not exaggerating.
Not
at all.
That even it's the same spot that Samsung puts their logo. So like from a distance, like you just think, oh, that's a Note 7, whatever.
And you know what the kicker is here, and that makes it really, really obvious that Huawei is being shameless. Supposedly, the curved edge variants will only be sold in China, where Huawei can't be sued for design patent infringement because they're China's special little baby. It is disgusting. Honestly, part of me is hoping that Huawei has the decency to just not announce the curved version. But who knows?
Where are they going to buy these curved AMOLEDs from?
Samsung, of course.
I mean, like, is Samsung gonna just figure like?
I mean,
they're gonna do
LG
it.
makes
Might
them
as
too.
well.
I think LG makes curved ones too, don't they?
Of the AMOLEDs, I sincerely doubt it.
Well, they made they had the G Flex. Was that that was an AMOLED, right? The G
That's
Flex.
POLED.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be that.
That's actually a very different and much less reliable technology.
And this is
supposedly these are AMOLED, I think, according to Evan. We will see. I really want to make sure that Huawei actually announces this phone, because if they don't, then maybe this was just something they were exploring. But wow.
It could also be that the screen is not curved at all, and it's actually bezel that curves around the side.
Yeah, and as Tom Westrick points out in the chat, the division of Samsung that sells display panels, completely different from the version that makes smartphones. Yes. And Samsung, I think it's SDI, Samsung Display Incorporated, would have no reason to know what the end product looks like. They just meet a specification. SDI provide display panels for the BlackBerry Priv as well. So, they don't need to know what the end device looks like. They just need to know what the panel specification is.
I wonder if they are providing a panel that's curved or a panel that is curvable. Does that make sense?
Probably. I would not assume that it's something that's done after the fact on production.
Yeah, you would have a really bad breakage rate. And even if you didn't, there's at least the risk to it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would assume that Samsung probably is their supplier, and if they release it outside China, I would applaud Samsung for suing them. I would utterly egg Samsung on and say you are completely legitimate in this, even if Samsung was a company sued by Apple for occasionally believable, design issues way back when.
Does Samsung still sell Apple batteries?
I don't know who Apple's battery suppliers are anymore. I know that LG is one of their panel suppliers, and I believe JDI is the other one. But I'm not sure for the iPhone 7 makes panels.
So that's the Huawei Mate 9. Just interesting side fact. One of my coworkers at work has picked up some 7-inch Huawei phone that has a 7-inch screen, and it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But
that's something old.
All right, so next is Echo, who apparently is ramping up for a big U.S. launch by, leaking their website details directly to everyone with Liam's very favorite exploded camera lens shots. So Echo breaking into the U.S. market with this glorious masterpiece of exploded camera.
You know what, Matt? I've got to correct you. It's Eco. Maybe. I don't
Lego.
actually know.
Is
I
it-
don't think
is-
I've ever actually asked anybody how it's
I
pronounced.
get, wait, so like, is there like a pause in the middle? Like there's an apostrophe or something that they just don't show? Like it's like
Yeah,
Klingon or something?
that's the idea of the camel casing is
I
that
see.
you.
So it's like you pronounce it like a Klingon.
Yes, so it's the camel case serve as a syllabic mechanic. So it is Leiko, much as it was Le TV.
I see. I am more comfortable with Lico. I'm gonna just call them Lico.
Because they are leaky.
Is it
So
especially apropos since they leaked out all of their products?
yeah, they did
So-
a really bad job.
So this phone, like their top of the line, Lee Max 2, has a Snapdragon 820 and a bunch of other pretty good specs, and they supposedly only want $289 for it, like with some special pre-order savings.
Okay, so the special pre-order savings is apparently you agree for Leiko to gather all of the analytics about your device usage. I am completely serious about this. That is the savings program, and it also involves them like asking you about device feedback apparently on a regular basis.
You know, I would give them device feedback. I'm not really so comfortable with a Chinese company that I'm not familiar with just like having all of my analytics data.
I mean, I'm guessing OnePlus just takes it anyway, so at least these guys are at least there's something there. I'm going to be curious to see how they pitch this. So they accidentally announced two phones, one of which is their semi-flagship phablet thingy, the Lemax 2, and the other one is the Let 2S, maybe?
I thought it was the Le S3.
Oh, Let S3. You're right. I
feel
can't
like
keep track of their
I just-
dumb names.
I feel like we're speaking fake French, and it's like insulting to French.
Yeah, it really is gross. So then the other items I saw on their site were 4 TVs, all of which run Android TV. So those were actually interesting, depending how they're priced. There's a 43, a 55, a 65, and an 85, and they're all 4K. I don't understand the point of a
85-inch TV, huh?
Yeah, I don't understand the point of a 43-inch 4K TV. That doesn't make any sense. 55, sure. Anyway, the only one with a believable price is the 55, which is listed at $800, which is actually that's a pretty good deal for a 55-inch 4K TV with a high-end panel and Android TV. So I would that could very well be competitive. The other ones will have placeholder pricing.
So like, why would somebody buy a TV with Android TV built in? That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. We need to just
Ryan,
buy any
that's-
TV.
That's
then
an interesting
box on it.
question. It's almost as though maybe Leiko could also make an Android TV box. I'm speculating here because maybe there wasn't enough information for me to put in the post about this. So I would not be surprised if we maybe see a Leiko Android TV device. But maybe we won't. But maybe we will, because I honestly think it seems like that's kind of what they're going for. Also, interestingly, Cody maybe could shed some light on this. Their Android TV UI is branded. So there's a Leiko logo in the top right. Not to mention that they have like 5 preloaded apps on the TV.
That could just be a mock-up thing, right?
Yeah, that could very easily be a mock-up. NVIDIA has a little bit, not in that spot, not as prominent, but NVIDIA has a little bit of the shield.
I mean, it's hard to know because there have been like 3 Android TV things. We don't really have a lot of experience with the platform to see what OEMs can get away with.
Well, so actually, I'm a weird exception to that. I have 4 different things that run Android TV in my house, and every one is different. I've got the ADT one, Nexus Player, NVIDIA Shield, and I actually have a Sony TV.
Huh.
So yes, I am exactly the person you just said doesn't exist.
But the Nexus and the 80TV one obviously won't have any specific brand name because they're completely from the source.
Sony has customized the living daylights out of their TVs, though.
Okay.
In like major ways, but they've just plugged so many apps in. They've got a few things that are hooked up in weird ways. They've completely mangled the settings screen. So there's definitely some allowance for manufacturers to do stuff. Like I said, though, I've never seen anyone put a logo right in that spot. But I don't see why Google wouldn't allow it.
Okay.
It's kind of a small battleground that I can't imagine anyone would care about in Google. It only the companies that would want that spot would care.
Okay. Well, we will be at Leiko's event in San Francisco on the 19th.
I'm sure that won't be awkward.
Well, they still invited us afterward, and disclosure, they offered to fly us up there and put us in a hotel. So they apparently weren't that upset about the whole ordeal.
Well, see, that way they'll know where you are. So when they send their assassins after you, it'll be easier.
Yeah. So we're gonna go do that, or I'm gonna go do that, and we'll see what that's all about. I would say the Snapdragon 820 phone for $289, that's going to get headlines without a doubt. That significantly undercuts OnePlus. So, that's an interesting idea. So I will let me recount the specs here. 5.7 inch Quad HD, I believe it's an LCD. So, okay, here's the kicker. 4 gigs or 6 gigs of RAM. So there are 2 different models, and suppose we're going to get both of them. So I would assume it's 4 gigs and 32 gigabytes of storage that starts at $289 after the give us all your data discount. Which still, that's pretty good. And the 6 gigabyte model goes up to 128 gigabytes of storage in the regions where Leiko currently sells it. Granted, it's going to run Android 6.0 out of the box, and also Leiko's UI is terrible. So there's that. But hey, $289 for a Snapdragon 820 and a 5.7-inch Quad HD display. Puts the Nexus 6P to shame, technically.
All right, so last little bit of rumor roundup. We had some images leak out this week from HTC and Under Armour, apparently teaming up to make a Android Wear watch, at least codenamed Half Beak. I'd have to assume that is nothing more than a code name. And also, apparently, a watch band that can be torn, which is important to note because
what?
There's a tear in the watch band in these images. They specifically show, if you're watching on the video feed, you can see here's a leaked image with the tear in the watch band.
Oh, so this is Under Armour branded, which is a polite way of saying it costs way too much money.
Well, it's an Android Wear device. Don't they mostly all cost way too much money?
Yeah, but even so, this reeks of vaporware. Like, it's a thing, but it's not. I don't know if this is actually ever gonna be a thing.
Yeah, it looks very rough.
Yeah. I think this is a bad idea for HTC.
For HTC, a company that is obviously struggling to sell phones that, everybody wants a smartphone, to then spend time and money making a watch that is going to be a very tough sell to consumers seems like a bad idea.
Well, I mean, how much they'll get marketing help from Under Armour. It's a bit of a difference because they will. It's not huge, but that's going to push it maybe to some people that wouldn't have had Android Wear otherwise. Maybe.
Under Armour's marketing programs have a tendency to showcase a lot of products in one commercial.
Right.
So this will probably end up in at least a half a dozen commercials, and it won't be the focus of any of them, but at least it'll get the image
It's
recognition
placement.
out. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think
Um,
anybody should be releasing a watch until Android 2 or Android Wear 2.0 is a thing.
Well, for all we know, they won't.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if this never materializes.
I will say one thing that's so disheartening to see is that it's still running 5.11. Like, it's such a small detail, and you know it wouldn't come out that way, but damn, that just hurts.
Yeah. Android Wear, well, we'll see, you know.
We shall see. All right, I believe it's time for a word from our sponsor, David.
I believe it is. This week's Android Police podcast is brought to you by Linode. Linode has hosted AndroidPolice.com for over 6 years now. Not only are we very happy with their service, we're extremely proud to have them as a sponsor here on the show. And as part of our partnership, you, our listeners, can get a free $20 Linode service credit today just by signing up at linode.com/AndroidPolice. That's L-I-N as in no, O-D as in dog, E.com/AndroidPolice. That is a no strings attached $20 service credit that you can use today to get a server up and running. Now, what do you get for $20? Well, you could get 2 months of service on Linode's base tier, which gets you a server with 2 gigs of RAM, 1 CPU core, 24 gigs of storage, 2 terabytes of transfer capacity, 40 gigs per second communication inside the network, and 125 megabits per second out. If you need something more robust, well, Linode's got you covered. Their servers go all the way up to 120 gigabytes of RAM, 20 CPU cores, 1920 gigabytes of SSD storage, 20 terabytes of transfer capacity, and 10 gigabits per second outside the network communication speed. So Linode has pretty much anyone covered that needs a powerful server. So if you head to linode.com/AndroidPolice, you can check them out. They have add-on services you'd expect as well, backups, node balancers, and Longview, and basically everything you need to get a server up and running right now. So go ahead and check them out. And thanks again to Linode for sponsoring the show.
All right, thanks to Linode for providing sponsorship this week. We are going to move on to what is probably the big elephant in the entire Android world. Canceling, basically, in all effect, the Note 7 after several of the replaced devices, the quote-unquote safe Note 7s, burst into flames. I think somewhere I saw there was an indication that there were 23 known cases now.
Yeah, that is what the Consumer Product Safety Commission has said now here in the U.S.
23 of the new ones that have
Yes, 23 of the new ones on top
Yeah,
of
that,
like around 100 of the originals.
that rate of explosion is definitely out of the ordinary for a mobile device.
But Ryan, if you Google iPhone fires, there's so many.
I know you find at least 50 articles, and I'm sure every single one of them is talking about a completely different iPhone fire.
Completely. And also, they're all the same model of iPhone.
Yeah,
all the same.
Yeah, I bet none of them are like iPhone 3Gs.
None of them have been sat on in overly tight jeans in chairs for 1.5 to 2 years on end.
Yeah, look, so Samsung screwed up real bad, and it is going to be tough for them to sell anything called Note anything after this.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume that the Note brand is dead at this point.
I am almost positive, and there's a story going around that is the scuttlebutt inside Samsung is that Note is dead, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if they're still going to try to do something similar and like just give it a different name, because they've invested so much in in having like the Galaxy S phones in the spring, and then like in the fall there's another Samsung flagship thing. it would be weird for them to just go back to only doing the Galaxy S.
Yeah, it would be bizarre. You know, people are saying like Galaxy S Pro or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I don't see why they're going to give up the investment that they have in like the stylus tech and obviously have a market for the Notes, because the Note 7s were selling like crazy. So it makes some sense to keep the phone going. Just give it a different name.
Yeah, in 6 months they'll announce the Samsung Galaxy Pro stylus.
Pro stylus, the snout,
Pro stylus.
Oh yeah, they just call it the snoot.
the Galaxy snout. Oh, that would be so good. But yeah, poor Samsung. I mean, not really. They got themselves into this. So
Yeah, it's whoever
yeah.
was in charge of this process, I think, is probably going to be fired out of a cannon into the sun.
I am guessing that the people responsible for sacking the people have been sacked.
Yes,
themselves.
Once they reach the ultimate sacking, whoever is ultimately responsible, they will just duct tape Note 7s to them and wait for nature to take its course.
Oh God, that is one of the worst ways to go. Oh, that would be terrible. Actually, so true story. All right, so Samsung sent me a original Note 7 back when the reviews were going on for that device. Before it came out. Did our review. Ryan did our review. I wrote some stuff about it. But then the Fire thing came out, and I was like, can I get one of the non-fiery ones? That'd be good. And then I waited a couple of weeks, and eventually like, oh yeah, you can get one of the non-explodey ones. And then they sent it to me, and I sent back the explodey version. And then the new Fire stories came out. And for a while, I kept using the phone for probably 4 or 5 days, and then more stories kept piling up, and I was like,
got increasingly uncomfortable with the phone. And
I got really, especially
you're looking at it sideways.
Because to me the decision was I can leave it in my office off the charger and charge it in the morning. But what if it catches on fire in my office and it causes a secondary fire, and I don't know until too late?
Yeah.
Or the other option was leave it in the bedroom on the nightstand. But what if I don't wake up?
Yeah.
It catches on fire.
No, you know what is? In hindsight, it was incredibly stupid that I did this. But like when we first started to hear about this, and I didn't think I had the Note 7 still, and I was thinking like this isn't probably going to be a big deal because it's never a big deal. We hear about phone fires all the time, and it's always just like an isolated thing. But like I had that phone sitting, like I have a drawer for all of my review units, and I had the Note 7 just like sitting there where if it caught fire, it probably would have incinerated a dozen phones along with it. Yeah, it would have been a disaster.
So what I ended up doing...
Oh, go ahead.
What I ended up doing was I waited until the Note 7 was about 15%, turned the screen timeout time to never. Maybe they don't have never, but like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever the limit is, and left it on my desk during the workday until the battery finally died. And then I put it in a Pyrex measuring cup and put it on my patio outside, where it sits to this moment because I have not yet received my ceramic insulated return box. So it stays out there until I get one.
Yeah, there are people who are actually like saying they're going to keep the phone, which I think is crazy.
Mashable.
Yeah, there was a site. There was a site we won't name that starts with an M and ends with Ashable, where a fellow posted how he is never ever going to give up his Note 7 because he loves it so much, and does not address any of the many, many, many reasons that he shouldn't do that. But so it was so bad, and I'm sure there are like people out there thinking they'll just keep the phone. And here's the thing: even if it doesn't explode, like it might not, but also when it gets older, it definitely might. And it's never going to get a software update, so I don't know why you would even want it.
You'll never get a software update. Customer support agents will never talk to you. Like Note 7, what's that? That doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't have that in my spreadsheet here.
And then if you ever try to get a warranty honored on it, nobody will ever work on it. Because why would they? Why would they ever work on the bomb phone?
Okay.
Which is going to be known as.
Those are all problems. I'm going to give you a bigger one. If you ever get caught on an airplane, if you ever get caught in just any number of locations with that phone, they're not just going to tell you to take it away. It is now considered a hazard. It is a danger. You are guilty of an actual crime for taking this with you to certain places. That's a big deal.
You know, might we call this the Guantanamo phone?
We
I
might.
guess you can.
Yep.
I would like to point out the image that was floating around was the bucket full of water with saran wrap over the top of it.
That's a terrible idea. That's the worst way.
Worst idea.
Like, I don't
So
know.
yeah.
I'm not sure how a lithium battery, when it's in cascade, responds to water, but I'm going to guess poorly. Like, I'm going to guess that doesn't help the situation in any way. Unless your Note 7 is surrounded by literal tinder. In which case, yeah, maybe it'll prevent a little bit of fire. But water plus lithium battery? Probably not a great idea. Lithium's on that side of the periodic table where bad things happen with water. So,
This is true, yes.
yeah.
Note 7.
Yeah.
There's I have a coworker who has not returned his Note 7. He was contemplating hanging on to it. I think we've convinced him that that's a terrible idea, but he just quote unquote hasn't gotten around to it. Meanwhile, he leaves it on his desk at work on the Samsung Turbo wireless charger.
Oh God.
No, so the
And
Samsung portable
just-
heat generator.
Yeah. The
Samsung portable heat generator.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this boy, he's really just asking for it.
Yeah. So I don't condone those actions, for the record, in any way, shape.
Well, you should really tell him that he needs to step down from his position at Mashable, because at this point it's causing an issue.
I think I need to have a conversation with HR about it. Honestly, like,
Yeah, through HR, if you have an
ban that
FR
phone.
department, you need to get on that. Hire resources.
Yes. Hey, speaking of things that are on fire,
On
kind of
fire.
seems like cyanogen's a little bit on fire.
Not in a good way. Not in a good way.
Like not in the like on fire like you made 3 shots in a row in NBA Jam Tournament Edition, but on fire like dumpster fire, maybe that kind of fire.
Yeah, it's a dumpster of sorts. It's a modular dumpster.
Well, it maybe time to evacuate or whatever.
I would
Yeah.
definitely not be putting cyanogen on a Samsung turbocharger right now. That's what I'm saying.
No. So apparently what happened is, according to sources who are familiar with the matter, so after CyanogenX went through all these layoffs, they started offering a bunch of people raises to get them to stay, because it's like, the ship isn't sinking. We're going to pay you more money to sit on it. And then they did this reorg thing where Kurt McMaster is no longer the CEO. He is the Eric Schmidt of sorts of CyanogenX, which is to say he runs around and says incomprehensible things, but doesn't seem to actually have a role. Also known as the
Executive chairman.
executive chairman. Those are the words. And the CEO that now replaces him is Lior Tal, who was brought in as COO, which doesn't exactly ring to me of a well-planned restructure. When you bring in a COO who ends up becoming CEO, when the COO was brought in by the CEO in the first place. I brought in my own replacement.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't hire him as my replacement initially, but now he is, and that's how it's exactly how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And And then Steve Kondek, who was chief technical officer, or chief technology officer, excuse me, is now out as CTO. He's chief scientist executive, or chief science officer. Anyway, I don't know. He's Spock.
I don't think he's an officer of the company now. Is the thing?
Yeah. Well, he's chief science officer, but so the way I read this is, why would you change Steve's title if it didn't mean Steve was getting less or more authority? And there's no way he could be getting more authority with that title. So, probably not good news for Steve and managing the company there. Anyway, they're switching to modular, which is something. I don't know.
It might just be a fancy name for apps. I don't know.
Yeah, I am really, 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 really skeptical that this will work for more than 6 months.
Yeah,
I think that they're going to build Moto mods and friends for the G5.
You know, yeah, they should. They'll build the first third-party G5 friend, and it's going to be a rousing success.
The actual entire business model is revolving around them building mods for Project Ara.
They're actually going to develop their own version of Project Ara. That's what they mean by modular.
Mm.
But
Except it's
really,
going to be software, and they're going to call them apps. And you can install as many apps as you want onto the device.
Yeah.
But it's not a pivot.
Yeah, definitely not a pivot from the thing they totally screwed up doing, which was making a ROM for phones. You know what? I think they took a turn for the worst when they blew up the OnePlus deal, because ever since then there has not been a phone of consequence running CyanogenOS. Like, even when you consider like the marginally successful ones they've had in India, they haven't been that big of a deal.
But Ryan, there's a new Alcatel something or other running CyanogenOS in Mexico.
Yeah, and
That's
those awful Wily Fox things in the UK, and it's just like there hasn't been a phone anybody cares about running CyanogenOS. Like, this project cannot possibly survive.
Yeah,
maybe they can move on to building Cyanogen for wearables, and they can poach all of the companies that don't want to use Android.
They're going to put a bullet through Android Wear's head. Yeah.
So the question is, who acquires Cyanogen Inc. at the end of this? Probably Microsoft.
I would be.
Would Microsoft want them?
I would not be surprised if nobody buys them.
Really? You think they just go away? I mean, Microsoft has already invested a bunch of money in them.
I think Kurt McMaster made them radioactive.
Yeah. Well, because they don't really have that much of real value that Microsoft wants or needs.
I suppose most of the project is based on the open source stuff.
Yeah, and the additions that CM still really has in place are it's either stuff taken from the community that they don't really own, or it's their internal services, which,
or like the handful of things they've partnered with other companies that they don't own either.
Yeah, and they're getting a lot of their like external support from Microsoft anyway. Like, they're just using Microsoft's apps. So
yes, I suppose perhaps they just don't have enough value for anybody to buy them.
Microsoft's better move is just to call up all of CM's employees and say, "Hey, listen, we got a job for you. If you want to drive over here."
They could sort of position that as we're acquiring the company for some meager amount of money, but all we really want are some of the employees.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of the very best they've already left.
Probably.
You know. I mean, it's not. They're in Seattle. It's not like there's a shortage of jobs there for people in this field. So yeah.
Actually, the very best probably already left to Microsoft.
Yeah, or Amazon, or one of their companies in the area. So yeah, I don't really feel bad for them.
Yes,
No,
it was a poorly run endeavor. I mean, maybe not entirely because of Kurt McMaster, but definitely largely because of him.
There were a few factors for sure.
The fact that it was probably never a good idea in the first place, being the primary factor, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, they wanted to be Xiaomi, but Xiaomi makes sense in China. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really make sense in the U.S.
Well, I think they had a good idea. Build an OS for hardware makers to use. Just like, not free, but make
then,
it
like,
really easy for them just to pick it up,
I mean,
license it, and run.
And then they completely failed to get deals with hardware partners. Like that. I mean, that killed them.
Yeah.
That the entire point of existing was that you would be able to buy a phone with CyanogenOS, and that just
Well,
that didn't happen.
when you basically burn the bridge with your first partner somewhat
Yeah.
publicly, and then your second partner, I think the second partner that fell through too, and then there was, I thought, one that was about to happen and it never did. Like
there were a couple of canceled
attempts
phones.
failed. That's not a good sign. That's, it's sort of like that person you've heard about. You could ask them out on a date, but all the rumors have been terrible. And
So we have home screen this week. But it's a home
We have a
screen.
home screen. Yes, we do, from Kyle. Kyle sent us his home
We haven't
screen.
had one of these for a while. Why don't you people send us your home screens anymore? Have we made you feel bad? Are you tired of being made fun
that's
of?
probably mostly it, actually.
It's okay. We make fun in like the kindest way possible. We do it because we love.
Wow, this person actually bothered to blur out their calendar, which
Yeah.
kudos to you.
Yeah.
Good job.
So he's using I don't know if this is actually the Pixel launcher or just something themed to look like it. I think it might actually be.
It might actually be, and it looks like the Pixel launcher. The messaging icon is creative.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. So he's got the Amazon Underground app on his home screen, which is interesting.
Well, but
Also,
That's just the whole Amazon app.
Yeah, that's it.
everything
That's
Amazon.
just Amazon.
No, that's the Underground app, though.
Are you
Well,
sure?
no,
I think that might be the same.
that's-
I think that might be the same
It's
icon.
It's the same app. I have it on my phone too. It's the
You
same
know,
app.
if I were to show you the icon of my Amazon app, it doesn't look like that.
Hold on. This is easy to determine.
No, the only difference is it's the regular Amazon app that also happens to include the App Store all in the
Right.
same.
That's the Underground
Yeah.
app.
This is
Okay,
true.
but
This
it's-
is it.
But you
This-
can use it for full-on Amazon shopping, just
Okay,
like the normal app.
But nobody would install that version unless they wanted the Underground stuff because you have to go
Okay.
and get it from Amazon.
I have a question. What is this podcast app? Podcast Republic? Podcast Repudiator? Podcast
I'm going to go with Republic. I
yeah, I think it's Republic.
Okay, I've never heard of it because I use Pocket Cast.
Pocket Cast.
Okay,
It is
Everything
Podcast
else-
Republic.
you're running a custom ROM. I can tell by your battery or your circle thingy up
Yeah,
there.
what is that circle thing?
Yeah, I don't know
It's
what that
too
I
much.
is.
was looking at when I
Guys.
saw that. I thought this was like a Moto Z or something, and it was like a mod thing. But then I remember that was a different icon. I'm not sure what that is all
That
about.
looks interesting. Also, if you could just go ahead and check your YouTube subscriptions and just go ahead and swipe away those videos, maybe.
Yeah, that's.
I like your wallpaper though. I really like that wallpaper. I'm going to guess that is a common wallpaper, but I've not seen it before.
It is a good one.
It's nice.
I don't get the Google Pill widget. I know like that's going to be the thing, but I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I don't get it at all.
Can you launch voice things with like one tap, or is it all reliant on?
I would suggest that maybe if I was at the launch event, you long press the home button now to do all of your voice searching.
Yeah, I guess. It's just-
Because I would suggest that maybe if you launch the voice command that's basically the same, I'm not sure 100%. It's a different interface maybe, which doesn't really make any sense at all, but Google. So...
Huh. Well,
Yeah.
but it's a
I have to
nice.
say, I like it. I'm okay with this.
It's a nice, clean home screen. I feel like this is what a rational human being would have for a home screen. Like it doesn't have a billion customized things on it. It's got apps that you use. It's got a useful widget. It is completely white bread normal.
But in a good way.
I would
It's
just
Yeah.
good wallpaper.
I would just like to say that this is the first person I've ever seen who also uses the 9 email exchange email software, and I give it a thumbs up just for that.
Oh,
I give-
also,
All right.
okay. Also, the Steam app. Why would you use that? It's a terrible, terrible thing.
It is a really
If-
bad app.
I mean,
But
I will.
if you're doing like the card trading stuff, you have to put in, or you have to okay and authorize every single trade you want to make through that app. So
Okay.
occasions, I don't see a reason you necessarily need it like on your
I mean, and
home screen, but
I guess it is a round icon. It'll fit in real nice. I will give this home screen 9 round icons out of 10.
Okay. I give it 8 pills out of 10. And so I'm subtracting 2 points for 2 reasons. First off, look at that vast open prairie of space you have on your primary home screen. There's just their icon space is just waiting to be utilized.
I don't know if I agree
That
with
space
this.
used.
I feel like
That's destiny.
you know what? You know what? It's not all about icon density, David. It's not about icon density.
It's about easy accessibility, and that is your God-given right on a home screen. The number 2, as Liam points out, he's got a folder on his quick launch bar with 2 apps in it.
That is a good.
What?
Wait, I think you said. I think
What?
you
that
said
was
something.
bugging me too. I admit that was bugging me too.
Oh, he says, I like the email in the folder. It may be an additional click, but I always know where it is. I don't know if that's the right argument to make, but
All I know is there is my quick launch icon with a folder in it that
9.
also has 9 and Gmail in it. So I'm right there
but
with them.
you only have the 2 though?
Well,
No,
you
I
know
have
what?
3.
You,
There's 3 there. See?
Okay.
I would just consider it a good excuse to add 1 or 2 more icons to that, just because.
You know,
Throw 'em in there.
especially with the new icon or the new folder icon thing, like 2 just looks really jacked up.
So here's the argument.
Well,
So here's the argument that I would make.
Folder style.
Here's the argument
Okay.
that I make for having the folder down there. So I don't think that anybody would necessarily call you crazy if you said, look, having direct access to your email on your quick launcher is a must, right? Like that's a pretty normal thing for people to want there. But for me, I have different email accounts that I have to use different applications for, and none of them are a higher priority or more important than the other. So yes, I have a folder that has them in there. That's just the way it works.
Liam suggests
So-
that he could just put 4 Gmails in a folder and just call it Gmail, the name of the folder. I think that's probably what he should do.
I would approve of that. So I'll say I keep my Gmail fairly in a similar spot, but I bundle it with like my other messaging apps. I just treat it the same way. And almost
so-
every time I go into Gmail, it's through the notifications anyway.
Okay, so what I do, I also have Gmail in my folder down at the bottom, but that's actually my folder of like all of my Google stuff. I just put Gmail at the front of it. But yeah, I suppose we're all just using phones in different ways in the way that makes the most sense to us. So more power to you,
Okay.
Kyle.
So my question is does anybody know, does the Pixel launcher force round icons?
No, I think it's an option.
Is an option. If I were to tell you that maybe some icons don't have circles,
I thought
You
they were
know,
going to force the plate. Is that not happening?
no, there's no force plate.
Okay.
Okay, so for clarity, the apps that include the round icon, those you can still turn it off and go back to the standard one, or are the round icons chosen?
How would you turn it off?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's just on or off for all of them, right?
I mean, if you're saying that YouTube looks like dog shit with the plate icon, could you maybe change it to maybe not look like dog shit? And if I were to hypothetically say that I were to maybe, have some insight on this, I don't know that I have any information about maybe changing it to look not dog shitty.
This is the most
so
complicated sentence I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I'm just letting
I feel-
everybody know.
Point being, this round icon thing is gonna
Yeah,
suck
we've got
for a
a
really long
big
time.
red semi-rectangular circle thingy on a white plate, which no.
Yeah.
Okay, can we maybe end the podcast now?
Yeah.
We could end the
I think we should. I
We
think
can totally do that.
we
That
totally
could
said
happen.
everything we can.
Hey, so if you want to send your screenshots, your questions, your comments, your concerns, you can send them on over to us at podcastgeneralpolice.com. You can also give us a call at 530-HELLO-AP. That is 530-435-5627. You can also find us on Twitter at Android Police and on Google Plus and Facebook.